Folks, what is one of the worst four-letter words in the English language? Well, our guest today, Skip Cowan, personal finance specialist, thinks he knows what it is, and it's probably not what you're thinking. Get your minds out of the gutter, folks. Skip, welcome. Always a pleasure to see you, buddy.
Indeed.
So the four-letter word we're talking about is debt.
Debt, indeed.
Debt. So why is that the worst word?
Well, debt is a crippling thing, Chad. It really devastates families. Do you know that debt is the number one cause of divorce in this country?
No kidding. I knew that finances, that was a huge thing, but I didn't know the underlying thing was
debt.
debt.
A lot of fight over debt in terms of adding more, not paying it off on time. My wife and I have had some classic discussions about
Been right there. Discussions. I've had those discussions a time or two, Skip. I know right where you are. Well, so what do we do if we find ourselves having more debt than our income?
Well, first of all, you got to realize that that's not a realistic approach.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
The only people that can spend more than they got have Washington, D.C. addresses.
Right.
But the rest of us have to live within a certain parameter, and that parameter is how far does the paycheck go? And if you're living beyond that, then eventually you're going to have to pay the piper because there's just no way that can sustain itself.
Right. It's gonna drain you.
Right. So bottom line, Chad, you got to be realistic in your approach, and you find yourself in debt, and you ask yourself the question, how do I get out?
Right.
Well, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. You're the specialist here. I'm just the host.
Well, the idea is then to create a budget that, one, you can live with. Two, reduces your debt slowly.
Okay.
Because if you try to do it all at once, all you're going to do is find yourself in a deeper hole because you're going to think, oh my gosh, I really need this next, my refrigerator broke, whatever, and you bring out the credit card.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, and I've been there as well, too. Now, you hear a lot of stuff these days about credit counseling. Is that something that we should look into?
It depends on your situation. If you've got a really drastic situation and you find that you don't have any self-discipline, which a lot of us don't, it's tough.
Yeah.
Then yes.
Yeah.
But be very careful who you choose.
Okay.
If there's an upfront fee, to me that's a red flag. I want a part of that.
Okay.
And probably the most insidious fee is the debt settlement fee. Think about that. You owe me $100 and we settle for $75. But the service out here charges you $28 to make that settlement. Does that make any sense to you?
So then you're spending more anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So be very careful with that. I generally recommend consumer credit counseling. They're a nonprofit group.
Okay.
There are no upfront fees. They're fair to consumers. Anybody else, I would get some professional advice and have somebody take a look at, is this where I want to go?
Gotcha. Okay. And then, of course, we never want to talk about this, but bankruptcy. When should we think about filing for bankruptcy?
Bankruptcy ought to be your last choice. Okay. Number one, it stays on your credit report for 10 years.
10 years, okay.
So it's going to have a terrible impact in that area. But secondly, think about this. Not all debt is dischargeable.
Right.
It's a tough word to say.
Yeah, right.
Mortgage debt, for example. Yeah, you want to keep your house? Of course you do.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, your mortgage cannot be discharged. How about a student loan?
Yeah.
Got a long-term student loan going?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, there you go. You can't discharge that either. So when you're thinking about bankruptcy, don't just call somebody on the phone. Get some real good professional advice before you make that move.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this is really important information. Unfortunately, something that, I think most Americans, they face every day.
Sure,
yeah,
sure. I think a lot of folks are in debt. Fortunately, I'm not in debt anymore.
Oh, I'm envious. I don't want to hear that. All right. Well, for more information on what Skip has covered today, head over to our website at casa.com. Click on the Style blog.